So I was sitting at home the other day reading my newspaper, and I was reading about different things that happen all around the world, from terror attacks in Europe to the election in the United States. And the more I read, the more I got the feeling that the media might actually not be neutral. I know this is a very shocking thought, and it must be wrong, I thought to myself. The media is the bastion of truth and honesty. They only report the facts. They don't get into trying to shape people's opinions on things. This must be wrong. I mean, the news media is often portrayed as, especially by itself, as the independent voice in society that, like Prometheus who brought fire from the gods to the humans, media brings the truth to the masses. The picture of the digging reporter that will stop at nothing to uncover the truth is a stereotype that everyone has heard of. The truth doesn't pick sides, so neither will the media, right? Right? Well, the reality might not be as clear about this as what media wants us to believe. Is this just an evil conspiracy theory from a fake news alternative media source? Or is there actually something in it? Well, let's dig into this a little bit deeper. So, what is the media supposed to be? Well, I came up with these three things. 1. The media is supposed to uncover and report the truth. Just like a good scientist, media should not care about what people think about the news being reported. That is up to the politicians and the government people to figure out. Media should strive to report objective truth as far as possible. 2. They should investigate and question the government and all forms of political organizations. Media should be the watchdog of the people. They should be looking into everything the government or governmental organizations or political parties are doing and make sure they're not up to any shenanigans, illegalities or other shit. They should ask the hard-hitting questions and act as a neutral part that covers all political spectrums in society, not just the most popular one. They should be the ones that cover everyone's interests, and they are in a position where they can actually ask the questions that everyone is wondering about. 3. They should fight for the freedom of speech. I mean, without freedom of speech, the media loses its place in society. If, for example, the government has total control of what the media writes, why do we even need the media? In that case, we can just tune into the political commissar giving his speeches every week and just do away with any other forms of media. According to my three things, the media should be the neutral watchdog working for the people. They are like the scientists are trying to bring enlightenment to the world. The key word here is neutral. The media should strive towards finding and presenting objective truth as much as possible. The media should not push a political narrative. It's up to the people to do whatever they want with the information provided by the media. If people then want to use this in a political perspective, that's up to the people. That shouldn't be the media's job. But how does this work in practice? Well, we're going to look at a couple of examples here. And then we're going to compare it to the three rules I just outlined. The first clip comes from the Swedish broadcaster SVT, which is the Swedish equivalent of the BBC. It's a almost state-owned media channel. The journalist in question is interviewing the French ambassador to Sweden regarding the beheading of a teacher that has shown a caricature of Muhammad in his class about free speech. The teacher in this case that got beheaded was teaching a class on free speech and used a caricature of Muhammad as an example.
At the same time, showing drawings or pictures of the Prophet Muhammad is something that a lot of Muslims, not at all only radicals, find very offensive. Is this something that you need to respect, and if so, how?
It is very interesting that you ask this question because people do not often realize how loaded and morally ambiguous your question is. Not your question yourself, but a question that is being asked by a lot of people. This is the trap that the Islamists have set for us to fall in. The conversation, as we began this interview, was about the beheading of a French teacher. And you are moving the conversation to something else, which is a debate supposedly on religion, on insult to religion, on blasphemy, which is not a crime in French law, etc., etc. But the discussion is about a terrorist act. It is not about supposed blasphemy or about a cartoon. And Al-Qaeda, in its propaganda, has used over and over Charlie Hebdo caricatures to move the conversation from what is actually terrorism to something else. The demonstrations in Paris, the determination of the French authorities today is to say, stop. We are not going once again to fall in this trap. The conversation is about terrorism, it is about the roots of these terrorist acts, it is about the networks that support those terrorists, and that are inflicting a pain to the whole Muslim population, which is much, much bigger than cartoons. You do not kill for cartoons. And what we are discussing tonight is the killings.
So, how did the journalist do? Well, when it comes to finding the truth, it's quite clear in this case. All the facts are already on the table on what actually happened. The teacher in this case got beheaded by a person who did not like that he showed pictures of Muhammad. But the journalist is clearly investigating the government here. I mean, the ambassador in this case is a representative of the French government, and the journalist is investigating by asking questions of if the French government is to blame for what happened. However, he's not standing up for free speech, not only by directly asking the question if the victim is to be blamed for getting killed, but also, perhaps more insidious, he's hinting that if you offend, in this case Muslims, you only have yourself to blame, since you should know that there's many Muslims in the world and they really don't like to be offended. So, I mean, victim blaming. The question he wants to ask is actually, should we abolish free speech if it risks offending someone? And it feels like the journalists want to say, yes, free speech should be abolished if it risks offending someone. He also adds the extra question at the end, and how? Hinting that this is actually the way we should be going down, by asking, how should we curb free speech in this case? I would say that the journalist in this example is balancing the line of what can be considered good journalism, but he's leaning a little bit too much towards pushing maybe we should actually curb free speech in adding the how should this be done. Let's take another example. This is from the BBC's reporting of the Islamist terror attack in Vienna. So in this example we're going to talk about the terror attack in Vienna that happened earlier this year, and this is as reported by the BBC. The Vienna shooting, what we know about Islamist terror attack. And the first thing I reacted on was that they put Islamist terror in quotation mark. What do they mean by this, and what do they want to say? That it's not at all certain that it's an Islamic terror attack, that it's just a random terrorist, and that we shouldn't believe the conspiracy that this had anything to do with Islam. They talk, of course, a little bit about what actually happened, about the victims, a little bit about what we know about the gunman. And the thing that also struck me was down where it says how he was radicalized. They talk about that he was a young man who was searching for his place in society, who apparently went to the wrong mosque. So again, we say that this guy is basically innocent. He's just misunderstood. He was just lonely. He just happened to end up in the wrong place. Nothing that this was any wants or wishes from his side. Nothing about that Islamism is dangerous. No, this was just an unlucky coincidence that he just happened to stumble into the wrong mosque and just happened to be converted to radical Islam. And that this guy just happened to then do a terrorist attack. I just get the feeling that they want to say that this is not really Islamism or have anything to do with that. This is just a man who is confused in the world, who just happened to do this, and we should actually feel a little bit sorry for him because he just took a few missteps and ended up in this very tragic situation. I feel that this is a little bit disingenuous at best and harmful at worst. The last example we have is the US election. I'm guessing you've all seen the media reports on this, and it hasn't passed any of you by that there was a big presidential election that's actually still ongoing. It's no secret that most media outlets have been very skeptical of Trump for the past 4 years and have done their level best to discredit or even ridicule him. This election was covered worldwide in such a one-eyed way that it's shocking. Most media outlets were dead sure that Biden was going to win, and everything they posted was either of how good Biden is doing or in which ways Trump is cheating. But Trump is the sitting president, and didn't you just say that the media should investigate and question the government? Yes, I said, and yes, they should. However, the media's treatment of this election was vastly different compared to the last time around. Back then, media was climbing over each other to sing the praises of then President Obama. In their eyes, he could do nothing wrong. In the election that followed, Hillary was a good guy, even though she represented the party who had been in power for the last 8 years. I mean, she represented Washington. She represented the establishment. And the fact that she tried to pull the same legal comparing circus as what Trump is doing now seems completely irrelevant to the media. I mean, let's not forget that Hillary was also claiming voter fraud and that the entire election was a sham. She claimed that Russia was involved. She tried a lot of different things. She also filed a couple of lawsuits. But back then, the media was cheering her on. But this time when Trump is doing it, they all say that this is a sign that he's a dictator. How can it be so different? What I mean with all this is that the media is clearly not staying impartial and neutral. Their job should be investigating both parties, asking the same questions, seek the same truths, and leave their own biases at the door. The media should not be an extra political party. Let's finish a little bit on the media versus fake news. Because the media is not satisfied with just pushing their own political agenda. No, they actually want to silence everyone who doesn't agree with them. The last thing we're going to talk about today is this with fake news. And the EU has taken steps to curb the spread of this fake news. This has been cheered on by all mainstream media because they want to get rid of anything that doesn't agree with what they say. And according to the EU, this is a big problem with fake news. The exposure of citizens to large-scale disinformation, including misleading or outright false information, is a major challenge for Europe. Well, I agree. The spread of fake news, especially within the mainstream media, is a huge problem. But of course, this is not about the mainstream media. This is about the other online sources that it's considered alternative media. The groups that have signed this entire thing is Facebook, Twitter, Mozilla, Google, and other people in the advertising industry, even Microsoft. But for some weird reason, we don't see BBC or any of the other big European media houses. I wonder why that is. Because, of course, they want to be able to continue to say whatever they want, because in their world, they are spreading the truth. And everyone else who's saying anything that's not according to what they believe in are spreading fake news. So, what do I think of the future? Well, either the media are just trying to keep up with changing times and trying to stay relevant in a world of information overflow. Or the media is quickly becoming a new global government that has the power to influence democratic processes, control public opinion on a massive scale, and will even go to court to fight anyone who stands in their way. From my position, this feels like an extremely dangerous and slippery road that we're heading down. What do you think? Do you agree with this, or am I completely wrong? Am I just a nutty conspiracy theorist? Please leave a comment down below. If you like what I do, please leave a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time, take care.